It's informal, man. It's not an interview. Yeah. How's it going, Skip?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Just
Going good.
enjoy enjoying the roller coaster that is professional baseball. Just
Oh, strap on. Just buckle
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
in for the ride.
Yeah. It's the best way to put it, man. It's the best way to put it. Yeah, we just got back from playing the Yankees low A team over in Tampa, and so that was pretty cool. That was, I think, definitely the nicest one that we've been to outside of the Phillies. And yeah, now we're back in good old Daytona Beach, man. Getting ready to play the Mets. So, so
I
that's
was
what
just
we
gonna
got.
ask you, so Daytona Beach, how's the temperature there right now? Is it smoking or is it okay?
You know, it'll the hottest it'll ever get is 92, 93. But we also play on turf, and that can get really
Ooh,
hot. But the night games, once it gets dark, it's fine. But well, I mean, we're out there practicing 2 hours a day on the turf, so I mean, it beats on you pretty good.
beat you
And then
down.
you get that, yep, you get that 92 to 93, and then you add 80 to 100% humidity, and it gets hot quick, man. You start feeling it pretty good. So I've gotten used to it though. I've definitely gotten used to it. It's different, but I would say that playing at A&M and College Station kind of prepared me for it just because of how humid it was there. So I'm not. It's not that different.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, A&M is no joke from the heat standpoint.
No, no,
Do you have a
yeah.
roommate?
Especially I've got I've got four. I've got four roommates. Yeah, they're all asleep right now though. They yeah, I'm up early, baby. Um, I got we a couple of them stayed in Tampa. Both of their two of them, their brothers are in town, and one of them's just kind of kicking it upstairs. So yeah, it's a good group though. It's a good group. It's kind of I think it's me and one other guy that are still here. Three of the other ones. One got sent to Double A like the first month of the season, and then the other two, one left at the end of June, and then one just got called up to High A, like literally 4 days ago while we were in Tampa. So just holding it down, man. Just holding it down.
We remember my first full season I had three roommates. I was in Quad Cities and was very similar though, really warm there, very humid. The park was like right
Yeah.
on the Mississippi River, so it was a good experience, that's for sure. My first season in rookie ball, I had eight roommates, and six of them were Dominicans. So it was a lively house. Let's just say that. A lot of activity going on in the house with the
Yeah.
boys.
Oh yeah.
It was uh,
Oh
it
yeah.
was
Oh yeah.
interesting.
How many bedrooms do you have in that place?
So I found the house. It was like
Okay.
maybe half a mile from the park, and so there was one bedroom, and I got the bedroom, and then upstairs was just one giant loft, and so eight dudes were upstairs, all in one big room. So they had like eight uh, air mattresses that they laid out. It was interesting. We get home. The boys would start cooking rice and beans, and
Oh yeah.
they started playing their music, and it was on. They were getting after it. They were good though. It's a good group of guys. Tried to learn my
Yeah.
Spanish a little bit that summer, but they just they talk so fast. I couldn't. I wasn't as fluent as I wanted to be. How
Well,
many
that's
how
the
many
nice thing
Latin
though.
guys do you have on your team?
I mean, at the beginning, it was probably I want to say like 60-40 Americans to Latins, but now it's like I'd probably say 80-20 Latins to Americans. there's well, we had I think there's
Yeah.
we were going through the math the other day. I think 15 guys since April 3rd when we started our season have either been released, gotten hurt, or been called up. So there's really only 9 of us left from that kind of original group. So everybody else has either been called up or traded for, or I guess maybe 1 or 2 guys got sent down from high A, and then we got a couple guys rehabbing. But um, they're good though. They're good. It's a great group of guys, to be honest. I mean, they all actually, for the most part, speak pretty good English and like put an effort into it, and it makes it easy when you try to communicate. Just try for me trying to speak Spanish, just because they're very friendly about it. They're not, I don't know, get a big league or anything like that, and they help. So I've actually definitely picked up a lot while playing here. So it's been good, and a lot of them are actually pretty good buddies of mine. So it's been fun. It's been fun.
That's
An
cool.
experience, but it's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who are you
I met
playing
some
for when
some
do what?
say that again.
I said who were you playing for when you were in
Who was
Quad
I
City?
playing for?
What
The Angels.
the Angels? Okay, so they're the Royals now because my one of my really good buddies from A&M is with them in High A. And then was that
Oh,
still the
really?
Midwest League? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I played
gotcha.
in like Burlington, Beloit, Clinton, Wausau. Trying to think of all the cities, but yeah, it was a good league. Um, I started in Bend, and it was kind of eye opening. So that my first spring training, kind of like what you were talking about, and they do things different now. Our rookie ball team, 2 weeks into spring training, they probably had cut or released half those guys in spring training. So it was a little strange. You go 3 months of rookie ball with a bunch of guys, and you're literally going on and stretching on the field, and you see the guys coming out of the complex with their bags and stuff, and they were gone. It was, I think that's the first time it really hit that, man, this is real. This is a business. It
Yeah,
was that was the first time where it was you kind of noticed like, oh wow, I just saw that guy with breakfast. He was a buddy of mine. We played together, awesome dude. And I was walking out of the complex, and I might not see him again for a long time. That's always something that stood out that first year. And then the more spring trainings you go to and the stuff you see stuff and guys get released or whatever. Now, I'm not saying you get like numb to it, but it just becomes part of how things work and just that business side of it.
yeah, yeah. Um, that
It's
was, I
interesting when
guess,
you have a bunch of friends that you get to know and stuff and see them leave.
yeah. Well, I think not even getting released. It's like you see guys go. I mean, we had the biggest difference from college to here was, I mean, we had a full house of like 5 of us, and they were all my buddies at the beginning of this, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, but 3 of them are gone now, and it's like that's just you think when you come in, you're like, all right, like it's that first initial like you're there together, and it's like, all right, this is going to be great, and then all of a sudden guys start moving, guys get hurt, and then they're not there anymore. And it's just that idea in like college, it's like you're still around those guys, but here it's like no, like you get hurt, you're going back to rehab, or you're not playing well, you're either going to get sent down or get cut, or even guys that shoot. We had a guy that one of our pitchers that had moved in. He was having a great year, but he was an undrafted free agent sign, and they released him because they don't have because it's they cut the organization size down from 180 to 165. So it's like, and then the very next day, he got picked up by the Mariners, and this was last week. He got picked up by the Mariners and got sent to high A. So it's definitely weird, man. It's like it's not. I've learned, and you can attest to this most definitely. It's like it's not always, I guess, like who's doing the best. There's like so many variables that go into it because it's. I mean, you got money or whatever the case may be, and I don't know. I just find that stuff interesting, or at least I've found that part of it interesting, and the difference between every other level of baseball that I've played and now. You know what I mean?
So they're at 165 this year, or does
Yeah,
that start
you're
next
only
year?
no, it's this year. You're only allowed to
Wow.
carry 165. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
shoot,
it. I
when I
mean,
was
right now,
playing, I think, there was no rules.
yeah. I mean, right now it's like the hardest it ever has been to just even be playing professionally, just because of the caps and the 20 rounds, and I mean, now college is a business, and I don't even know how that works on a recruiting front, but I mean, yeah, man, it's definitely different than it was, I guess.
And I'll tell you what else is different, J Money. When I was in Quad Cities, I was making $850 a month.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, a little different than you guys now.
Hey, man, price of inflation, I'm sure it weighs about the same. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure.
It's a good point.
I,
Good point. Valid.
money
Nice,
does,
nice
money
comeback.
does not.
Um,
Yeah, money does. It doesn't go that far. It
money
still
doesn't
doesn't go very far
spread
in
as
minor
far.
leagues.
I
No.
got you.
Yeah.
I know. A gallon of milk's like $10, man. I mean, you're gonna be okay. Jesus,
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, I want you to tell me the biggest difference between Texas A&M and professional baseball.
Biggest difference between A&M and pro ball? Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, I'd say the biggest difference is where I'm at currently. I mean, right now it's a little different because my team is kind of in the hunt to get to the playoffs, so we're playing, I guess, the lineups that our manager thinks gives us the best chance to win. But, the first 3 months of the season, man, it was not about winning. It was about developing, and it was about how can we get this guy that we paid $2 million for as many reps as possible to give him the best chance to get to the next level. And you got a lot of guys that were really good in college that um, just for whatever reason, whether it just be scouts' perspective or just kind of how things panned out, they get to pro ball, and their opportunities may be a little limited, and it has not always everything to do with their ability. It's just they need to get other guys more reps, and it's like in college, it was all about what can you do for me right now to win a baseball game, and it was every single day. It didn't matter what was going on within the program or anything of that sort. It was to win baseball games. It didn't matter how old you were. It didn't matter. I guess now it might be a little different with NIL, but I mean, it didn't matter. Like money was never a thing in college. Like when my junior year is when NIL became the most relevant to the collegiate athletics, but it was never an issue as to like who was going to play. You still knew the lineup every day, and I mean, you still had I mean, it was different for me in college because I had performed for 2 years. So my junior year was really like the year where I knew like, okay, like I can struggle for a little bit and still be in the lineup. So it was nice having that leeway for a change. But my first 2 years of collegiate baseball, it was like if I wasn't producing, I was not going to play. And that's probably I got to say the biggest difference from college ball to pro ball is like if you're in a top round guy, you're going to get every opportunity in the world just because they have made such a strong investment in you. Similarly, in college, I guess if you, I don't know, sign for, or I don't want to say sign for a bunch, but what's the word? Get like, or how it used to be where they would do the scholarships. And now it's different because you can pay full scholarships, but it was like the coaches, if they believe you were the best guy, like you were going to play every single day. And if you weren't performing, the next guy is going to get his opportunity. And if that guy starts playing well, he's not coming out of the lineup. So, but there have been plenty of times this year, man, where shoot, I've had 3, 4 games in a row where I've been great, and then I won't see the field for 4 or 5 days. And that has probably been like the biggest eye opening thing for me, at least until I'd probably say about mid June, where I kind of just figured out that it was like, all right, hey, like it doesn't matter what I do today. I'm just gonna go play and enjoy it. Like it doesn't matter if I go 0 for 4, 4 strikeouts, or go 4 for 4. Um, I'm I have no control about when the next time I'm gonna play is. So like I'm just gonna enjoy right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you have to do that. From a standpoint of pro ball, I was in a junior college for one year, so I didn't really experience, especially what you experienced at Texas A&M, big time college baseball. But you start seeing how, things happen and how they try and develop guys. And like you said, there's things they do at times that don't make sense to you. You're like, what are we doing here? But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's their org, so they're going to do things that they think are going to help down the road. And like I said, sometimes it's a little tough when it doesn't. I'll be honest. Like, of course, there's people I thought they released. I was like, why are they releasing this guy? Or flip side, you'd see some guys get called up that didn't make any sense. Like, I didn't understand. Like, why is this guy getting called up and not our outfielder that's got doing this? But end of the day, like I said, that's their decision. That was the toughest thing, I think me and a lot of guys, just trying to put that aside and just say, well, I'm just going to go out
Mhm.
and take care of me, and hopefully,
Yeah.
they like what they see. And if they don't, then maybe somebody else out there, because there's scouts at the games all the time watching, all you guys play. Someone else is going to like me. But it's hard sometimes not to get caught up in some of the stuff and some of the transactions that go on, that where you're like, there's always on every team, there's like one or two guys that, like, it's almost like their personal job, where they try and have everything figured out, and they're analyzing everything. And then there's guys that literally, they don't care. Like, they show up and they could care less. So like, am I playing today? All right, if I'm playing, then I'm gonna get after somebody. If not, I don't. I'm not worried about all that other stuff. That's the one thing you find, especially you get around a lot of Latin guys, and all these guys from all these different parts of the country and shit, the world, that you just see different personalities and how guys react and respond to different things. It's kind of interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, you can't play GM. Can't play GM. That's been the biggest thing. Like I have a buddy of mine. I think he's Hunter's age actually. He's in low A too, but he signed out of high school in 2022, and he got a good amount of money. He's a really good kid, and I just asked him one day, and I was just kind of like messing with him and whatever, and I was just like talking to him about like when he's throwing next, and he was like, "Dude, I don't know. I just go out there and pitch." Like that was his only answer, and that's the answer you have to have. And honestly, like if that, I don't think that applies just to pro ball. I think that if I'd had that mindset as a freshman in college or even in high school, really, because the stories of when I was younger in high school of I wanted to be good so bad for my high school, and we had a really good high school team looking back, and it was just like adopting the mindset of like exactly like you said, like dude, I don't care, like it is what it is. I'm just gonna what I if my name's in the lineup, that pitcher's gonna have a tough day. If not, like whatever. Like I'm just gonna go out and get all my work done and be a good teammate. And I don't know. I think that part of it's huge.
No, I agree. I agree. Part of the thing with you too, you've had some amazing coaches along the way, that helped you develop you in the kid that you are. And what I want to do is I want you to rank from your favorite
Oh boy.
coaches, Jim Schlossnagle, Coach Johnson, and Clint Savares. So I just want to see where those guys rank from a hierarchy standpoint. So I'm putting you on the spot right here, J Money. I need a ranking, and this is being recorded.
Well, I
So
don't, I
you
don't
can't
think that,
run
I
from
don't think
this.
it's,
No, you can't run from this. And I can
I'm
see by
not,
your
I'm
body
not,
language you're a little uncomfortable right now. You're going to be okay. I need on recording what that ranking is. Those three guys, rank them from top to bottom.
well,
Here we go.
first of all, I'm not going to do that because number one, Number one,
Holy
and here's
cow.
the reason why. It's
Can't,
not.
dude,
It's
you
not.
can't pivot.
It's.
Hey, Michael
I'm
Jordan, you
not
can't
pivoting.
pivot. I need
I'm not.
quantitative. I want it. This is so
Listen.
good. God, this has made my
Listen.
day.
Listen. 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 You have three coaches who have, from my understanding, have never. You just named three coaches that one coaches high school summer ball, one coaches high school spring ball and summer
And
ball,
fall.
and then the
Club ball.
and
Call it
fall
club ball. Don't disparage him.
club
Club
ball.
ball.
Club
Club
ball.
ball.
Okay, so he
But
coaches
travel
year
ball. I
round.
mean, that's a
One
catchphrase
of them
now. Yeah.
one of them. Okay, so I just by the way, that was Coach Jay that I just described. So he coaches spring, summer, and fall. You got Z who coaches summer and fall and runs a travel ball or co-runs a travel ball organization. And then you have Coach Sloss who is one of the most decorated college baseball coaches of all time. So I don't know how you can expect me to compare those three. I can. I don't think it's fair to compare those three at all because those were such three different experiences.
Well, I would like to bring up the point that you said
I
that
enjoy
Coach
play. I
Schlossnagle is
honestly,
one of the
I
most decorated Division One coaches of all time. But Coach Johnson, Mark Johnson, is the state of Colorado's winningest high school baseball coach. I mean, that has to be
yep.
part of this conversation. You can't leave him out. I mean, so,
I'm not.
and then Clint Savars had, a
Well,
an
I
assistant
gotta. Well, I
GM
gotta.
that will
I
go
gotta.
down in
I,
his eyes as one of the
unfortunately,
greatest of all time. In one, I'm not gonna,
unfortunately,
his last name ends with Moss, but Brent Moss, the assistant GM of that team. So, I mean, there's all this stuff that comes into play in this ranking system. So,
well,
this has been fun for me just to see you squirm. It's been the
well,
best.
it's. I know. Hey, I'm glad you've enjoyed it, but since you just brought up an excellent point, well, actually, Z by default is number three on that list because he left my team to go coach another team in high school. So by default, he automatically because that happened because he my freshman year played for him, and the next year he left. And then Give Dog had to come in, and same with TA. So we had Taylor Anderson and Give Dog, and then Z just came back and just totally just moshed teams together and called it his team. So I don't know. I don't know. I think I think by default
Rode in
Z
and
gets
saved
number
the
three.
day. I mean, he rode in and saved the day. Unbelievable.
Well,
Unbelievable. Well, let
well,
me ask you this. Of those three, what characteristics do they have that are similar?
similar.
Because they're all really good coaches, all winning coaches. What
I agree.
what
Yeah,
one or two characteristics do they have that are similar?
it's a good
I mean,
question.
who's running this podcast? I mean, I'm getting after it right here. I'm gonna start putting you on the
Hey,
spot
I
here. I'm
don't
gonna
mind
start
it. I
asking you
don't
some
mind it.
tough questions. Let's go. I love
Hey,
it.
I don't mind it. I don't mind
What's
it.
your what's your
Well,
what's your
I think that
favorite? Go ahead.
go ahead.
I'm waiting.
Okay, all right.
I love it. This is
I,
the
I
best.
would
This is
say
the best. I'm loving this.
I would say that they're all very demanding. I would say that they have a standard and you have to play to it. And if you don't play to the standard, then it's not going to be as enjoyable of a time as if you are meeting the standard. And if you meet the standard, coaches have favorites, and I've always believed in that. And I think for anybody that says that coaches don't have favorites, they're lying. And it's your job as a player to become that favorite or to become a favorite of that coach, not in a like kissing up to anybody type of way, but hey man, like coaches like good players and they like guys that produce for them. Managers like good players and they like guys that produce for them. And it's all about what have you done for me lately? And I felt from really all three of them, and honestly, all three of them care about me as a person, and I have several examples from each coach that would testify to that. But I would say that, hey man, like if I'm not performing well, like that coach is going to treat me different. Like that's just how it is. And Z was the same way. Coach Jay, I mean, I remember my sophomore year, I didn't get a hit for like 2 weeks, and in high school ball, that's like forever because you only play, I don't know, 4 or 5 games in that stretch. And I remember it was just different. Like I remember if I was even going to have my job the next day, and that was really my first taste of that. And then in college, it was the same with Coach Sloss. Like if it didn't matter to him whether you were batting 1,000 on the year or batting zero, it was all about like if you did something good lately, then you were going to get treated better. Like it was just the fact of the matter. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't know. But with all of them, it was, hey man, there's a standard and you have to adhere to it. Otherwise, you're not going to play. Or if you are playing, you're not going to enjoy your time playing.
And I think that's something that's, you know, important for kids nowadays to understand that, let's be honest, the majority of kids that play, that get the chance to play at a Texas A&M or get to go play professional baseball, but let's just stick to like college. They probably have never walked in the park ever, as a high schooler, wondering if their
Yeah.
name's in the lineup. They just get out
Yeah.
of the car and they're like, yeah, I'm playing today. And for a lot of guys, when they get to college and they walk in and they're not in the lineup, they don't know how to, a lot of times guys don't know how to handle that. They're just not,
Yeah.
they're not used to it. And that's tough for a lot of kids. And then even like,
Yeah.
you and your situation coming from Texas A&M, starting every day, being a guy and, doing what you did there, then going to pro ball. And like you said, you'd have 4 or 5 really good games and you might not play for 3 or 4 games. I mean, that's the mental
Yeah.
side and the grind that, I don't think people realize. That's the biggest thing that I deal with, talking to our guys from a travel ball standpoint, that, you know, you're on a good team. Do you ever, I asked the guys that, have you guys ever worried about when you get out of the car and go to the game if you're going to be in a lineup? And, most of them, they don't. They're not worried about that. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm playing today. And you can see guys, like if you switch the lineup or you do something and someone's not in the lineup, they're like,
It's different.
they just don't know how
Yeah.
to act. They're like, what's going on? Like, they don't know how to act in the dugout. They're like, and that's part of what we got to do is teach them, that's going to be a reality, especially as a freshman. Everybody, being in Colorado in our state, they're trying to go out and go to another, bigger type program. I just try to explain to them that, God, if you go in as a freshman and you get to play at all and get a chance to play, you need to just relish that fact that you got a chance to play.
Enjoy it.
If you're going
Yeah.
in and you think you're going to start and just, right out of the gate, I mean, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure and you're going to set yourself up to be mentally beat down. You got to go in there from a mindset that I'm going to do whatever I can to get in the lineup. And if I get in, man, it's a win. But, that's the thing that I've dealt with over the years with kids is that, they come back like, God, I didn't get to play very much. And I was like, as a freshman, I mean, you probably aren't going to get to play as much. You were,
Yeah.
you went to ASU and you were able to get an opportunity and you stepped up and did a great job with it. But that's not like normal for a lot of kids, and that's a tough thing for kids to deal with. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about in your situation, just the mental side is hard, man. It'll beat you down.
Yeah. And I think speaking on that too, it was, I mean, you remember this, but so I came to Arizona State and I had a really good fall. And I thought that, well, actually, like the last day of the fall, they had brought in this grad transfer from Auburn and this big kid who had a lot of experience in college baseball, and everybody thought that he was going to be the guy at first. And I at the time I was playing a lot of left field because frankly on that team we didn't have really a left fielder, and I figured honestly that that was my best shot to play was in the outfield that year. And then the last day of the fall, this kid tears his ACL trying to field a ground ball. It was like a high chopper, and he was trying to turn it to second base, and like he got his foot got caught in the grass, and he tore his ACL. And so I come in that spring, and I'm like, all right, like I have got to show these guys, like I deserve to be playing every day, this, that, the other. So I come in and was like terrible. Like I think I like in those games before the season, I think I got like 4 hits and like 40 ABs in college baseball, and I was like, that was to me like the biggest like shock I'd ever experienced in baseball because it was like I'd had experiences of like somewhat failure. Like I would consider failure in high school, like hitting like going like 1 for 4, and then you go like 0 for 2 the next day, and then you get 1 for 3 the next day. Like I would consider that a bad week if I was playing high school baseball. But it's like you get to college, and it's like now the pitching is much better, and you're facing guys with good stuff, like real stuff, every single guy. And it just felt to me like it was like, oh, that guy's out of the game. Thank God. Like I can hit now. And then the next guy they bring in is throwing 95 from right here as a lefty. And I'm like, dude, this is insane. And it took me, the coaches, though, they still believed in me. I got very grateful for that. Or I was very grateful for that because they still believed in me enough to keep giving me opportunities. And I don't think a lot of freshmen get that. And I was fortunate enough to get that because I had a track record of playing well, and they still believed in what I could do. And so that's also a little difference in my story. But anyways, I got in like 10 times, and then I would go 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts, and I'd get pulled out of the game. And this happened like 4 times. And like for a while, dude, for the first like month and a half of that season, I would tell myself before the game, I was like, all right, you better do something with these 2 ABs, otherwise you're coming out of the game. And it was true because if every time I would go 0 for 2, get pulled. And uh, so I'd play like once every week, and then finally I was able to catch my footing a little bit once I just kind of adopted the mindset of like, all right, screw this, like can't get any worse. I'm hitting 220 in college baseball right now, and like I like pressing is evidently not working, so I might as well just relax and go play. And then, funnily enough, when I adopted that mindset, I started to play well and get my footing. But like even then, man, like I was also very fortunate, like I just said, because I had coaches that kept running me back out there. But I know a lot of guys that they get that one shot, and if they don't get it, that's their only shot, and then they have to wait 2 or 3 months or till summer ball, and then they go to summer ball, and they'll play well there, and then you come back, and you better make the most of your opportunities in the fall and spring, man, because you might not get a ton of them, and especially now, man. So how would you say? I mean, what is your advice to kids now on your team now? Because you do have a really good team. And I want how many Cherry Creek kids are on that team, just so I know, because it is a really good team.
Really appreciate you pointing out the fact there's 6 Cherry Creek kids and it's a really good team. You've mentioned that twice. So we do have other
Yeah.
players other than the Cherry Creek kids, but we have 6 knucklehead Cherry Creek kids. That honestly they've been awesome, man. I've been really lucky. Those kids have been great. They worked their butts off. They just won, a state championship with Coach Jay going out on top. So it was really cool to see that. But those guys, they've worked their butt off. It's like I said, it's been a really good team. We got a lot of guys that committed Division 1. But that's the thing I keep reiterating to them, and I think they're tired of listening to
So
me because I keep
so
saying,
I gotta
"Listen, you
cut
guys
you
got a
off.
year left.
Yeah, I gotta cut you off. So I
Cut
guess
me."
where I was going with that, I guess where I was going with that because we had, uh, I was just gonna segue it into that because you're kind of hitting on it right now. What is your advice to them right now going into big time Power 5 schools where it's no longer all about, I guess, academics in the sense like it's a business now. Like if you play well, you have a chance to make a lot of money. And if you don't play well, you're probably going to you may not get another chance at that school because you have guys that are transferring in from junior colleges or mid majors that have performed and they get they get in the transfer portal and their coach is looking for a replacement because you didn't do so well. So what would you tell those kids now, or what do you tell them now?
I tell them it's a business, and I tell them like just today's our first day of fall practice. I tell them, hey, this time next year you're going to be in college, and you guys better realize that it's not Cherry Creek High School, it's not Mullen High School, it's whatever school you're going to, and you better step up, and you better go into the fall like literally day one ready to go. Like you'd better have been in the weight room. You better be ready. And if you don't, and if you're not ready, you're in trouble because, you're going to go in there and you think the sophomore or junior or senior or maybe even grad student that's at second base or at shortstop, you think he's just going to roll out the red carpet for you and say, "Oh yeah, hey, here you go, freshman. Take my job." Shit, they don't want to give that up because they have been through the battles. They've been through that and they are not going to give that stuff up. And so you better be ready. And if you're not, just like you said, especially some of the guys who are going to the bigger schools, they're going to
Yeah.
find somebody that will. I mean, they'll go out and get somebody. I mean, there's 5,000 kids in the portal. They're going to 34 kids next year. So the roster size, just like you were talking about in pro ball, it's going down to 34 kids. It's only going to get more competitive. So I
Yeah.
tell them it's a business, and I don't think they realize that. They don't. And the kids that we talk to, it's funny when they come back for their winter break, and I go, "Hey man, remember all those talks I had with you?" And they're like, "You're right. Like this, it's crazy. Like I wish I would have."
Yeah.
Listen a little more because it's not easy, man. It's just not easy. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I want to ask you something. So you started the season this year, kind of playing one out of every four games. I'm watching your numbers, seeing you're hitting like 180, 190, and I know you
Then
and I know how your
140,
mind
140 at one
is. I mean,
point.
you want to run through a wall. 140, even more impressive.
Yep.
So what what did you do to now be hitting 290? So what was it? What was it that you've done and how did you manage that minefield of, that mental absolute beatdown that you were going through? It's tough enough for you, and I know you personally really well that you're such a perfectionist, and you expect so much out of yourself to be hitting, you know, 140, 180, whatever it is, and also playing like one out of every four games. How did you battle out of that? What did you do? What were the things that you did? What were the techniques? What did you use?
Yeah. I mean, well, to be fair, I guess I'm hitting. I think I'm hitting 280 now because my last two games I went hitless, so I'm back down to 280. But I still had really good ABs in there, just no knocks. But yeah, that's a great question. I mean, number one, I'm very fortunate to have a very good support group and people around me that, I mean, my dad better than anybody, and I know my dad better than anybody, and and just I would say how far that to give credit to him, how far he has come from my youth days and being okay with seeing me fail. And I know that, maybe behind closed doors, it drives him crazy the same way it does me when, I'm not playing every day or it is what it is. But, he was really supportive to me. He was really supportive. And, my girlfriend as well, like I would call her every single day, possibly twice a day. And I would just be like, man, like this sucks. Like, uh, this is BS. Like, why is this happening? And, she never once was like, hey, you should just hang it up or anything like that. It was always like, just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I vividly remember, so I not only was hitting 140 at one point, I started to have some better at bats. And I remember we were in Clearwater playing the Phillies. And we get done with our last game, and I'm really happy for one of my best buddies here. He gets called up to Double A because he was playing short and he was hitting like 290, 300, and that's pretty damn impressive in the Florida State League. Like if you're hitting anything, I'd say over 250, I would say that's a very good batting average in this league. Um, and he gets called up to Double A, and then our assistant manager pulls me in, and I'm like, oh God, like I'm going back to rookie ball. I'm leaving because like I've been terrible. And I would honestly say that what I got was even, you know, at the time I thought worse than that. But the manager brings me in and goes, "Hey man, the organization's decided to put you on the development list. It means that you're not on the active roster. It means that you can practice with the team. It means that you're still going to be in the team activities, but it means you're just not going to play. And it'll be for the foreseeable future. Should be about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks." And I remember I got on the bus, and I was kind of telling my buddies kind of the situation because they were asking, and they were like, "That's BS, just out there on the run." But in the back of my head, dude, I'm like thinking like, well, I'm hitting 170, and it's not like, I mean, I could say whatever I want about the other guys that aren't playing well, but I was like, the bottom line is, dude, like I was not producing, and like I think I had to be honest with myself and have the self awareness to be like, okay, like yeah, I mean it is BS, and I could go back to college or what I did my first year of pro ball, and I could go back to all these different things about how I should be playing every day, and this is BS, but to be frank, I think it all started with just having the self awareness to be like, I need to make some changes, and I need to make some changes to how I'm doing this because I'm a really hard worker, and I was doing everything I thought that I could. So I go back and I was like, man, I just need to get back to what makes me good. And it really was just my mind. And I have videos on my phone, and I started documenting from that day forward. I think I have probably like 10 videos of just like interviewing myself, and just kind of like I've journaled every single day for the last 2 or 3 years, but I started doing it on video. And I just was like, hey man, like and I still had the videos. It was like, you're gonna remember this day, and you're gonna remember these feelings. And then it's just like, let's just see what happens if you just took all the blame from everybody else, everything that's going around you, and let's just put it all on you. And like, let's just make this like real, and like, you're the reason you're at where you're at. It's not anybody else holding the bat in your hand when you're in the batter's box. Like, nobody's telling you that you can't get there early and do extra work. Like, it doesn't matter what you think of your managers. It doesn't matter what you think of the situation you're in. Like, let's just see if you can be self accountable and totally just take ownership and do something that like nobody else in the situation would do, and that would just be to think as positive as I possibly can and just see the good thing of everything. So that manifested into simply just I it was our off day the next day, and I had just gotten put on the development list. So I was like, all right, no one in their right mind would go lift on their off day, and after they just got told they'd be put on the development list. So I go lift, and then I had a great lift, and I was like, all right, that manifested me into, I go text the hitting guy, and I was like, hey man, like, can I get there early tomorrow, and like, can we just hit for a while? And so then that manifests into him and I working more together and having that relationship to where it didn't feel like I was on an island as much anymore. So I had some support with me from or I always had support, I guess, but just it felt more like when I came back to the dugout or I got there, it was like when I was in the batter's box, I had eyes like helping me. And I just having that humility to be able to be like, all right, I need your help. Like, let's work on this. So then I did that, manifested into doing a lot of the things I did at A&M, which was just getting in there early in the weight room, doing a bunch of movement prep for my swing, and getting outside with tennis balls on the wall like I always did at A&M, working picks and working footwork for defense. And then that manifested into, getting there early, helping with my arm and my throwing, and getting back on a plyo routine. And so really, I don't think it was anything specific. I just think it was making that decision to be like, hey man, like, let's just see what happens. Like, you already suck right now. Like, it literally can't get any worse. Like, what are you going to hit? 100 compared to 140? Like, that, like, who cares? Like, it literally can't get any worse. So let's just see what happens. And then sure enough, I get called back up off the development list, and my first day back, my first AB back, I draw a walk. My second AB, I smoke a ball, and I was like, all right, like I got some momentum, and it wasn't like And it didn't feel like at any point, like in the first half of the year, I was trying to get everything back in like one swing. I was trying to go 4 for 4 in one at bat or one pitch. And then after that, it was just like, all right, I'm just going to put one at bat together at a time. Like, I'm going to make this at bat the most important at bat of my life. And if I don't get a hit, great. If not, like, if I do, great. If not, it is what it is. But my reaction became very similar. Like, if I struck out or I got a double, my reaction was the exact same. And that gave me the freedom to be able to be like, okay, it doesn't matter what happens in this game today. I'm still going to work my tail off. I'm still going to be super positive. And like, if nothing else changes, nothing else changes, and it is what it is. But like, I don't think it was anything in particular, man. I think it was honestly just I just went to the gym, and like I went to the gym when I didn't feel like going to the gym, and I started doing things that I didn't feel like doing, and that was basically what built my career and got me to this point. But at some point, I thought that I got like entitled to, and don't get me wrong, like I still believe when I was, back then, like I still believe that there's a difference. What I found is there's a difference between earning something and feeling like you deserve something. And I felt like I deserved something, but I wasn't earning it. And that was when I had this epiphany of like, dude, you got to earn it. Because the fact of the matter is you're not playing hardly at all and you're in low A. And you're right now the third guy on this depth list to play first. Like something has got to change. So I don't know, man. I think honestly, to answer your question, the short answer of it would just to have self awareness. I think that's the biggest thing of any good player. And Coach Schloss always harped on that. He was like his best players that he ever coached had self awareness to know what they're good at, and self awareness to know like what they need to improve on. And frankly, I'd always prided myself on being mentally tough in the game of baseball, especially after because you know me better than anybody. Because when I was a kid, I was not that at all. And then I prided my when I got older, that became what made me good was the fact that I could handle adversity like better than a lot of people can. And I remember calling you, and I remember, and I think that was mid-April, and I'm talking to Billy. I was like, dude, this sucks. Like, I'm doing terrible. And it was like when I got tired of like feeling those things, and I was like, all right, dude, like I'm being a baby. Like, I'm fine. Like, there are worse things in the world than it being in Daytona Beach, Florida, playing baseball for a living. Like when you see your name in the lineup card, like be happy. It's not a pressure. Like, dude, you're playing pro ball. Like, who cares? Like, even if you retire right now, you could say that you did something that 99.9999% of people in the world dream of. Like, they would kill for this. So it's like the gratitude, the self awareness, the support group that I had to continue to keep me going when I wasn't going well. And then honestly, I think the other part of it too is like, frankly, I think the failure helped me more than anything, and it's going to help me for the rest of my playing career because it's like, dude, I know what it is, and I know that I can get out of it. Like, there's not a situation that I haven't been in my career, whether it be injury, whether it be the yips, whether it be um, failure as a hitter, like that I haven't gotten out of. And I think that is where my confidence comes from, is because like, and Harvey Dorfman talks about it all the time in his book, The Mental Keys to Hitting. It's like, don't be afraid to fail. Have confidence in yourself that you're going to get out of it, even if you do fail. So that I think that was really liberating and really freeing. But that's, I mean, a lot there. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that you could probably attest to, man. Like it's there's not really one thing. It's like it's accumulation of a lot of good things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I mean, you covered a lot right there. I think it's, what you've done is impressive. But on a serious note, I mean, to see see how the evolution of Jack Moss, let's call it that, and see, all the stuff you've been through to see where you're at now is impressive. Because, hey, I mean, I know how you are. I mean, you're hard on yourself, you're a perfectionist, and, to see that, whether it's 140, 180, whatever it is, I mean, you weren't hitting the way you wanted, and to see where you're at now, it's not easy to raise your average to, to where it's at now, 140 points from where it was. That's grinding, man. You gotta pat yourself on the back. That's some things that the kids that I don't think they realize sometimes. There's some points you got to really recognize, man, I've actually done a good job, and give yourself a little credit. Some kids don't do that. Now, some kids give themselves too much credit, especially
Yeah.
in high school. They think they're way better than they are. And it's like, you guys, you have a reckoning coming, and you're going to get humbled here soon, because no matter who you are, how good you are, whether you play 1 day or 10 years or whatever it is, you're going to get humbled. This game's going to humble you. And if it hasn't, it's going to, and it will probably do it multiple times. And to see how you've handled that this year has been impressive.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, when it rains, it pours both directions. I mean, it's like when you have the momentum of going well, it stays. And I mean, you can attest to that. When you get wins, they just keep coming. And when you get outs, they just keep coming. But then when you can't get a guy out, you can't get anybody out. And it goes both ways. And the hitting side of it too, like it was
No
like
doubt.
I literally felt like Holsey, like every single day I came up to the ballpark, I was just like, I know I'm not getting a hit today. Like I I I literally felt like, and I was like, I'm gonna do everything I can today, and it was like, dude, I know that at some point this guy on the mound today is gonna throw a perfect painted changeup down and away, and then he's gonna go up and in with a fastball. I'm not gonna swing it either, and they're both gonna be called strikes. And then the third pitch is going to be a breaking ball in the dirt, and I'm going to swing at it, and I'm going to run all the way down to first base after I spike my bat into the ground, and I hear the ball whiz past me, and the first baseman catches it and throws it around, and that feeling, it's just like it doesn't like it's just it's when you have it, but then it's like I guess when I just
That's
this, man,
not the
it's like when you
visual you want as a hitter, to be a successful hitter. That's not the visual. The catcher throwing the ball around. Thanks for coming. See you later.
and
Well,
it's the
talking with
worst when
Billy, as you
like
know, I mean, he's talked to me about the hitting side. Well, he said, like, when he was going bad, he goes, you might as well just, when I walk to the plate, just put an 0-2 on the board. Just go ahead. Let's not even screw around. Just put an 0-2 count on the board, and then let me face a freaking nasty slider away, and I'll just walk back to the dugout. You know what I mean? Like, he goes, when you're going bad, like, that's like literally it's over. Like, you're just like, this sucks. He's
well,
funny
the
because,
worst is
you
when
know, you and him can relate to that kind of stuff.
well, yeah, I mean the worst is when not only when the catcher's throwing it around is like when you get a drop third strike or you swing at something and you look stupid and the catcher muffs it and you're still standing there just kind of in an awkward position and he like slaps it on you and he does it like extra hard and you're already 0 for 3, so that makes it 0 for 4. So now the guy just hit you in the gut with the ball, slaps it on you, throws it around, and now you're walking back to the dugout and you just got smacked by the catcher. Like that, there might not be a worse feeling in the game of baseball as a hitter. But yeah, it's different. And my buddy was like, just to speak on what you were talking about earlier, just in terms of my playing time, it was like my buddy. I asked him how because we were just talking. He was like, "Yeah, well, it's different for you and I because I'm a pitcher, and if I have a bad day, I have 5 days to sit on it." And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? You and I play the same, like, like if I have a bad day, I'm sitting on it for 5 days too, man. Like, and that was probably the toughest thing because I hadn't dealt with that since I pitched, and that was 7, 8 years ago. Um, and I was like, dude, like, I'm doing something that is statistically much more difficult than being a pitcher, and I have to sit on this for 5 days. Like, I think that was probably the biggest thing. That was like the hardest part. But also, too, it was like once I stopped pressing and just being grateful for the moments that I got, it just kind of took that pressure off and was like, okay, like whatever happens, just go play and enjoy it. Like, I don't know how many more times you're going to get in there, but at least you have today. And like, you do love baseball deep down. So let's just go enjoy it and see what happens. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a valuable lesson for the guys. What advice would you give my guys that are literally Cherry Creek High School? Okay, so the Village Idiots, my 6 idiots, this is their first day of school today. Cherry Creek High School. But what advice would you give my guys, which are they'll be graduating this year, to get them ready, or what to prepare for that first day of fall ball, or that first, fall ball game or whatever when they go to college here, in a year from now? What advice you got for them?
I actually so it's Oliver's first day of Cherry Creek today. I don't know if you knew that. Um, he's a
Let's
freshman.
go, Big O. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So
Wow. He's a freshman?
yeah, isn't that
Shit.
crazy?
Wow.
Yeah. Remember when he was born
That's crazy.
14 years ago? Yeah,
I
yeah,
do.
yeah. It's crazy.
Holy
Yeah, it's
cow.
crazy. Yep. Um, this first day, and honestly, I thought about it, and I was like, man, like, it's the same advice I'd give them is just to have a set value system. And for me, that's Christianity. And if your values are placed in social media, if they're placed in money, if they're placed in status, if they're placed in the girl you're dating or anything along those lines, you're going to have a really, really tough time. You're going to have a really, really tough time. But if your values are placed in having faith in a higher power and being able to work hard and being able to commit to living in a godly manner. So the sense of not letting the results affect who you are as a person and still being good to your family and still being good to your teammates and still being good to the people around you and your peers and doing things for the right reason. And I would say the right reason for me is just simply because I love baseball and I want to be able, when I'm 70 years old, to look back on my life and just know that I didn't have any regret of when I played and just to never wonder what could have been. I want to be able to be fulfilled. And I believe that living your life with a set value system of the right values, especially in today's world where you have so many external things kind of distracting you from those things, I think you're going to be really happy of how things work out because it's like, you can get hit in the mouth as many times as you want, but if you have the right values in order and you have like a strong foundation of who you are as a person, it's really hard to stay like that for a while. Like you're gonna like everybody hates when they strike out, but the guy who is worried about how they look on social media or how they look for the girl in the stands, like that guy's gonna be way more stressed out, as opposed to someone who's like, like, I did what I did. I did the best I could, and like at the end of the day, like, my family still loves me, my God still loves me, and I treat people the right way, so they know I'm doing my best, and it is what it is. But when you do that, you come in and the freshmen that speaking from the other side of it, when I was a sophomore and junior in college, the best freshmen that I got to be around and the best underclassmen were the ones who were just very comfortable in their own skin. They didn't try to be something they weren't. They didn't try to go out of their way to be an idiot or go party or be dumb. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's important to hang out with your teammates, but do it in a way that makes you comfortable and makes the people around you be like, okay, like that guy's not trying to be somebody he isn't. Like he's not. He's just very methodical and relaxed and just acts like a pro even when he's been here for a year. And acting like a pro to how it is just like, hey man, like I'm just there to go do my job and make pitches. And when I'm up at the plate, I'm gonna go up there and hunt a fastball and try to put a good swing on it. If I don't, then it is what it is. Like I'm gonna walk back to the dugout and be the same person. And acting like a pro and having that foundation is like the biggest thing, man. Because yeah, they're gonna fail. Like there's no doubt about that. Like whether it be in college or whether it be in pro ball, like they're gonna experience some level of adversity. And then to those guys too, I'd say like I'm not naive to it. I remember my senior year, I felt a lot of pressure. I didn't play my senior year because of COVID, but coming into that year, man, I felt a ton of pressure because I thought I had a genuine chance at getting drafted. And I was still at that time, I was like, all right, well, if what if I'm just a bust? And like, what if like, because I already had, they didn't pull my scholarship, but I had those issues with Virginia where they were like, hey, like, he can come, but we don't think he's going to play. And then I was like, well, shoot, like, what if that happens again at Arizona State? So just stick to where you're at right now and have those values. Like that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's such a difficult game, and it's such a difficult, especially being at Creek where you have more than a lot of other high schools, you have a lot of publicity because you have 4,000 other kids at the school with you, and you got people from all walks of life, and there's a lot of pressure and expectation that comes with that. And I don't know, I just stay where your feet are and have those values.
No,
Skip,
it's
what would
good.
be the
That's great advice. I
Skip?
mean, honestly.
Yeah, what would to someone, because I know in the past, like my dad has touched on a little bit, and I've heard from you a little bit. For anybody out there that doesn't we like we talked about the baseball side of it a lot, but I think that something that gets neglected a lot that I've dealt with this year because my dad had some health issues in May, and on top of all that I was dealing with on the baseball field, I'd go home and my dad was sick and he was in the hospital, and I know that he's in the hospital, and and honestly, the last few weeks have been a little tough, just in the sense of I lost one of my dear friends in AJ, and you have all these different things going on the baseball field. You come to the field, you have to deal with the pressures and expectations that come from being a professional baseball player, and you have to put on a facade in front of however many people you're playing in front of that night, and these people know nothing about you as a human being. But come to find out, like after the game, you got to go home, and my dad was sick, and I haven't seen my family in months, and you have all these different things going on. So what would you say, talking about the personal side of professional baseball?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely people don't realize, you know, I think they look at baseball players and they think like, hey, they just show up to the field and everything's great, and they don't realize that there's life happens and it doesn't stop for baseball. Um, for me, um, I dealt with in the end of '98, or I got hurt. I was signed by the A's, finished the season in the big leagues with the A's, went to spring training, and didn't have a good spring training. I just didn't throw good. So I got released on the last day of spring training, which was not great. And I signed with the Rockies, and I didn't pitch very good in AAA. Um, and so I felt like shit. I've been playing for a while, but this, I'm kind of getting to a crossroads here. I signed with the Phillies and, getting ready for spring training. And my wife and I were trying to have a baby. So we were working, trying to figure out what's going on. And we had seen fertility specialists and done everything that, we thought we should be doing, but it just wasn't working out. And it was like 2 weeks before spring training, our doctor said we probably should have an MRI and check to see if she has, anything going on with her pituitary. So we had an MRI on a Wednesday night. I still remember it was like 8 o'clock when MRI. And we got a phone call in the morning, and the phone like was by my side of the bed. This is back, before cell phones. You know what I mean? So um, the phone rang, and I answered, and it was a lady from the doctor's office, and like totally nonchalant, she said, "Yeah, this is so and so with doctor's, office, and your wife has a massive brain tumor, and it needs to come out,
Is
and we need to see you in the office at 9 a.m." And I was like, "Can you repeat that?" And so she did, and I got my wife up, and I said, "Hey, you have a brain tumor, and we're gonna have to go to the hospital and meet with the doctor." We get down there. And the funny thing was, and it wasn't funny, and it still drove my wife berserk to this day. We get in there, and I mean, this is life-changing thing. The guy was a huge baseball fan, and all he wanted to do was talk about baseball in this meeting, and my
oh
wife
my
was like,
gosh,
"Oh my God." Yeah, she was going crazy. But we had the surgery. She had the surgery 7 days later. They removed like literally a baseball-sized tumor. That was called a meningioma, and
um,
I had to go to spring training. So I get back, we get her back to the house, and I'm literally go to spring training, and end up pitching pretty good, and I get called up to the big leagues, and I'm in the big leagues for a week, and she has something in the back part. The There was an infection, and it had caused, which can be really dangerous. So they had to put her back in the hospital in Philadelphia, and they had to do a surgery. So, just that kind of stuff is the stuff that, you have to be able to put that and separate that when you go to the field. You know what I mean? And it's stuff that people I don't think realize from a standpoint, like I said, life happens, and they're not going to stop a baseball game because your wife, has to have surgery, has a, like you see the stuff with Freddie Freeman with his son that's going on. I mean, the Dodgers, they didn't stop the game, but for the Freeman family, this is a huge deal. Like, this is their son going through this. But I don't think people realize, the stuff that goes on. I think there's times where they just think like we're robots, or baseball players are robots, or football players or basketball players. I mean, they got to deal with real world stuff too. And that's
Yeah.
part of the whole thing. Like, you're dealing with mental stuff from the game standpoint, and the stress of the performance side of it. And then, that's the toughest thing, and one of the best things I learned from a couple veteran players is, and it's hard to do, when you leave the field, you leave the field. And so you can't
Yeah.
take, that negative game or that negative outing and take that home with you to your girlfriend or your wife or your kids. Like, it has to be separate. And as hard as that is, that's one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got. And I played with some really good veteran guys that, were really good to me and other players. But, you pick up some of these nuggets from these guys, and it's like, the guys could tell, like, if I was struggling or whatever. And I had guys that I play with that I knew they were struggling. I would go talk to them and say, hey, man, you got to separate it, and you
Yeah.
can't take that home with you. If that's all you obsess about, it's going to eat you up. And that's way easier said than done. It is really, really hard to separate that. I will tell you this, though, when you have kids, and it's easier to separate, believe it or not, because your kids
Yeah. That's
are an
what I've
outlet for
heard.
you. Like, it's easier.
Yeah.
When it's just you and your wife, or you and your girlfriend, sometimes it's not as easy, man. And you got to have, like you mentioned, a good support system, that someone that's there that's going to, be supportive and walk you through those tough times. Because it's sometimes you feel like you're on an island, man. And it's a big deal from that standpoint to have that support, because it's not easy to do this, and it's not easy to get through all the ups and downs by yourself. Like, it can beat you down.
Yeah. And that's the interesting part about professional athletics, just kind of as a whole. And I got it a little bit at A&M just because I mean, playing in that conference, I mean, I would say we played in front of a lot more fans than what I do currently. And I think when I get to high A, it'll be a little more similar just because they draw good crowds in the Midwest League. But it's like, if you have, for like the average, or I don't want to say average, but for just a person who doesn't play sports, or say, take my dad, for instance. Like, my dad is a lawyer and he's very good at what he does. And it's interesting because people don't understand that, if they have a bad day in their profession, it's like, okay, they, like, that person, and maybe the direct people around them, like maybe there were, I don't know, 40 people in the courtroom, right? And like they saw your day and like that was your bad day. But it's like in professional athletics, it's like, okay, you just had a bad day in front of 50,000 people and 100 more thousand people watching on television. And now it's like you got to get criticism from those people on top of your team and your coaching staff, your management, whatever it is. And it's like, for the most part, man, like I understand that people, were great when Freddie Freeman came back and played in his game, and I saw them give him a standing ovation, and I appreciate that. But dude, like, at the end of the day, man, like, people care in the moment. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I've had a lot of really bad days outside of baseball, And it's like nobody nobody really cares. They just care about how you're performing. Like nobody like when you're watching the game, they don't judge you personally based off of how you are as a human. Because I've played with some really good baseball players that are not good people, and they get praised and worshipped by these people that just have no idea what kind of person you are. And you've played, and I'm sure you've played with people that are the same way. And you see all these guys that get praised for accolades or how they played in a game and what this, that, the other. But it's like, dude, like when you're in professional athletics, you're judged based off of strictly how you play. And it's like you have to put whatever is going on in your personal life leave it at the door as soon as that uniform comes over your head. Like you are not a person anymore. Like you are a baseball player. Like that's what I've learned. Like that's probably the biggest thing that I've taken away in terms of like separating the two. You're exactly right. Like right now, I'm just Jack. Like I'm Jack the person, and like I talk to my family. I talk to you. I run this podcast for just kind of as my hobby that I enjoy, just because I like talking to people. But it's like when I get to that field, man, it's like I feel it. Like when I step out of my car, it's like there's like a certain energy when you walk into the stadium. It's just different. And then when you walk into the clubhouse and you feel like 30 minutes before the game, people are kind of like scrambling around, and it's like there's just kind of a different sense of like, okay, like everybody's like they're not the same person anymore. Like when you look at myself, for instance, like I'm not the same guy. Like you can talk to me, like I won't be standoffish, but it's like, no, man, like I'm getting ready to like go kick this guy's ass. Like there's no me being like friendly anymore. Like I'm trying to beat this dude. Like I'm trying to stay here. Like I've got to eat too, man. Like and it's just people. I think that's the toughest thing for people to understand about pro ball is like it's just you play in front of all these people, and they just care about your performance, man. That's it. It's not about anything about who you are anymore.
Yeah, it's good. That's a great point. I mean, it's funny because, I think some people just have a perception of how it is, and until they actually see it, they don't realize it. I think like my wife, she came and lived with me before we got married, and I just said, hey, you might have this perception of what this is, but you got to come live with me and see what this life is all about. It's not what everybody thinks. It's different. I mean, you're gone a lot, you're on the road. I mean, you're getting home at 11 o'clock at night. I mean, it's different. It's a different, lifestyle. It's just different. And you gotta find the right person that, to spend that with, because some people don't, some, significant others, if they haven't experienced that, they don't realize what it's like. And you need somebody that's going to be there and be supportive, because like we've stated in this multiple times in this today, this is not easy, man. It'll beat you down, beat you down.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where I think that I've gotten really lucky because my girlfriend, obviously we're not married yet, but I've dated her for over a year, and pretty much the entirety of the time that we've dated, it's been me and pro ball. And obviously it is different in the sense of living together, but it's like, man, like I've been fortunate enough to where she's coming to see me 2 to 3 times uh, a month, and like we see each other all the time, and she's seen, I would say, the difficulties of the ups and downs of being in pro ball and seeing what it's like to be with somebody that is in it, because it's like you said, it's not always sunshine and rainbows like everybody makes it out to be. So I've been fortunate in that regard too, but it's good stuff, man.
I agree. I mean, it's I mean, it's a great game. It's fun. It's awesome, but it's a grind, and you got to embrace that grind. I've told the guys, I go, if you guys want to play this game, man, you got to embrace it. You got to embrace that grind, because it's a grind like unlike anything else. I mean, just the amount of games you play, and I mean, it's like every day. It's you're doing something, and even on days off, like you said, Some guys will go hit, they'll go lift. Like it's just a grind, and if you can't embrace it, it's gonna eat you up without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Well, appreciate you hopping on, Skip. Man, I'm sure I'll
You got it, buddy.
let you go. Get back to
I gotta.
coaching the next
I'm gonna go take my boy Kershaw
superstar.
to the dog park.
There you go. Not going into Slammers
Kershaw's
today.
sitting
What
right
do we
next.
got?
Oh yeah, but Kershaw's sitting right next to me. You usually go to the park, and so he's waiting patiently here. So he's like, "All right, are you done talking? Because it's go time. He's ready to go." But hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. Good luck. Are you playing tonight? Good luck if you are.
Yep.
And look forward to seeing you keep doing well. I hope you guys keep winning and doing well, get into the playoffs. It'll be fun.
Yep. No doubt. All right, Holsey. Appreciate you. Wait, stay.
All right,
Hold
buddy.
on.